Hey guys, welcome to another Foundr interview. My name's Nathan Chan. I'm the CEO and publisher of Foundr magazine, and we're in hometown Melbourne, Australia. And today we're interviewing my good friend Stuart Macchione. That's how you pronounce his name. He is the co-founder of a company called Gleam, and it's an amazing SaaS tool that helps you generate more leads. And he actually is also a teacher of our list building course. It's called List Building Mastery. And if you guys want to know how to generate more leads, grow your email list, he's an absolute master. He's the man. He knows a ton about growing a business and also generating more leads and all sorts of other things. So Stuart, welcome so much.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, mate. So the first question I ask everyone is, how'd you get your job?
Which one?
I guess the work you're doing today.
It was a long slog, really.
Yep.
You know, I moved over to Australia to be a DJ, actually, because I love music. In 2005, so I did uni. I was an electrical engineer. Finished uni, came to Australia, tried to get a job back home. Really, really hard to get a job in Ireland because there's so many people all trying to get the same jobs. I was like, I need to take a time out. I need to go to Australia. I'm going to, follow my passion, try and do the music thing.
Yep.
I came here and tried to be a DJ, and I just wasn't. DJ is a funny job. It's like, it's half the music you play, half the people you know, and it's long hours. You're playing late at night. You're spending all this time putting music together, and you're not getting much at the other end. So, it took me a little bit of a while to realize that wasn't really where I needed to be.
Yeah.
So I got a job working for a marketing company, just temping.
Yep.
At the time, doing. The company was called Creative Field Marketing. So they did fit outs for shops for upcoming product launches. So at the time we were doing the Sony PSP. We'd go to like Coles or Woolies and we'd fit out the shop with all the merchandise. And I was still on a working visa at this time. They put me on a bunch of other products, Canon cameras, Foxtel. So that was like my first sort of foray into marketing.
Yep.
And then my Aussie visa ran out. I got shipped back home. I had like the marketing bug at that point. Like I was like, all right, I really enjoy this side of, marketing. I want people to know about products. Like I want to create value. And at that point in time, it was a journey of like self-discovery and learning. I did the whole, ClickBank ebook stuff.
Yep.
Landing pages, creating affiliate sites. I really explored that whole realm of that side of the business. And at the time, I was, I didn't really know what was good, what was bad. It was just like, absorbing and learning. So I ended up moving back to Australia. I got my visa to come back, and I started working for a startup called Hitwise.
Yep.
So Hitwise were a competitive intelligence company. Basically what they did was they had a device that monitored ISP traffic, and then they anonymized it. And then they were able to give stats on where traffic was. So it was like, if you imagine like Google Analytics, it was like Google Analytics, but you could see everything about everybody. So people would subscribe to this service and you'd be able to see what traffic competitors were getting, what pages you were going to, what search terms people were searching for competitors.
Yeah.
So, that was a small startup company, like scaling. I was doing their SEO at that point in time. And I just worked my way up through the company. I had never been in a corporate company before. It was all new to me. I just learned as much as I could, worked my way up, met a whole bunch of really cool people. Eventually, that company got acquired by a big UK company called Experian.
Yep.
They're a big credit services company. And that was then my journey from, once it got acquired, I went from being in a startup to being in a corporate.
Yeah.
And that was a big mindset shift for me, being in like corporate world.
Yeah.
Where everything's a lot more rigid and defined, and you have meetings about everything. Along that journey, I always kind of did my own thing on the side.
Yep.
Affiliate sites. I have a music forum. I produce music. I've still always loved music since the DJing times.
Yep.
So I had like a music forum that I still manage and a whole bunch of other things. But you know, I kind of felt like the corporate world was never scratching that itch. You know, it was a job, it was fun, but it was never really scratching that entrepreneurial side that kind of was always like burning inside me. So like at one point, I was like, right, I need to, you know, I was seeing some success with like this WordPress site that I'd built that was doing coupons. Right, so it's like a really simple WordPress site. I'd built like individual pages for all these merchants in Australia, and I had like listed all the coupons, and it was making like a couple of $1,000s a month just from affiliate fees. And I was like, I reckon I could scale this. I don't have the technical expertise to do it. I'm going to try and find somebody. And that was the hard part. So pretty much I went to every developer meetup. You know, it's like trying to find your partner or trying to find your wife.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a drop in the ocean. You've just got to go out, you've got to talk to people, meet the people. You got to find somebody that's willing to say yes. So eventually I found a guy, John, on meetup.com. I sent him a message. Everyone else had turned me down.
Yeah.
Like everyone else had pretty much like told me to go get stuffed or like, what's your budget? Like nobody wanted to work with me. And eventually I met John. He was like, yeah, you know, I've got nothing better to do. Let's catch up for a few beers and we'll see how we go.
Yeah.
So I met John, we caught up for a few beers, and you know, I had like this whole plan as to how I wanted to build this coupon site, how I wanted to scale it. He was like, yeah, sounds good. You know, we'll just get started. So we were still like working, we worked full-time jobs, built this coupon site. I think we talked about, I can't remember, I think we talked about this in the podcast.
Yeah.
Built this coupon site, scaled it. It was going really well. I think we were making like close to $30,000 a month.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Within 3 months.
Yep.
I think this was around, I think I actually said the dates wrong in the podcast. I think this was around early 2011.
Yep.
When the Google Panda algorithm hit, and it completely destroyed our entire site. So like everything that we had built, all the traffic we were getting from Google just disappeared overnight. And we had been talking about quitting our jobs. And we're like, right, you know, back to square one. What do we do about this? You know, we're trying to figure out, well, you know, why did this happen to us, and why did it not happen to like some of the more popular sites? You know, we couldn't figure it out. And we spent all this time like writing content, hiring content developers to try and pad the content, make it more unique. We thought it was maybe like a duplicate content thing.
Yeah.
And basically after 9 months, we got nowhere. So we started a couple of other sites. We built a Pinterest clone before Pinterest was available, and that didn't work too well. I mean, it got traction, but so we just kept throwing ideas at the wall. And throughout this time when we were building ideas, we were always looking at different ways to market the ideas.
Yep.
And one of the things that we'd always use was contests. So we'd use Wildfire, you know, a bunch of other tools to create contests and market them. And I think it was like one afternoon, John was at my house, and we were just like, we'd had a break, and we were just like in the kitchen, you know, maybe having a beer. And I just said, look, you know, like these contest tools that we're using, like none of them are that great. I was like, why could we build something ourselves? And he's like, yeah, I guess we could. And I said, well, why don't we spend the rest of the weekend trying to build something to see if we could use it for ourselves? So we spent the rest of the weekend, we built something. So we had like a real raw version of Gleam. We designed the widget. Like neither of us are designers, and the widget still looks the way it did the day we launched it. And I think we launched with like Twitter integration, SoundCloud, Facebook. Back in those days, you could do Facebook like via API calls. So you could connect your Facebook and like a page in one click.
Yep.
So, you know, back then our entire, you know, we were like, well, we want to build this, but we want to make something that's different from everything else. So our entire premise was that we would make it easier for the contestants, the people who are entering the campaigns, to enter. So the idea behind that was that if you enter one Gleam campaign, you're always logged in, no matter who's running it.
Yep.
And if you connect Facebook, if you connect Twitter, if you connect whatever, it's one click to enter. You don't have to go to Facebook, you don't have to like the page, you don't have to copy the URL,
awesome.
come back. it's one click to do everything. And that's the way we built it. And we launched it, and we launched a couple of campaigns of our own. And then we had everybody like saying, hey, what is this? Can we use it? And then we kind of thought, well, maybe we've got something here that's a bit different. And we just iterated. We launched a beta, and then we just grew customers from there. Unfortunately, along the way, some of that one-click functionalities disappeared.
Yep.
Not because we want to stop doing that, but because of terms and conditions. Facebook stopped like gating. They reduced the terms and conditions of their API. Twitter's doing the same a little bit. Instagram, we used to have one-click follow on Instagram. We'd love to keep doing that, but we can't due to the way they've changed their API terms and conditions. So I think we launched Gleam in 2013, late October. And here we are now, 2018. So we're, 4 or 5 years later?
Yep. Yeah, actually similar to Foundr.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually I remember I contacted you long time back in the early days of Foundr, and it was early days for you, and I said, let's catch up for a beer. Do you remember that? We caught up for a beer.
I think, was that after we wrote the post about you guys? The
Yes,
Instagram breakdown?
Yeah. So that was a while back. That was when you were still working out of, or you and John were just about to wrap things, I think. Or maybe John had wrapped things or something. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so we bootstrapped for a long time. Yeah, I do get a lot of people asking me, it's like, what's your recommended way to launch a business? And you can really go like 3 ways. The first way is that you go venture capital funding.
Yep.
You quit your job, you go all in. And that's got its pros and cons. The pros are you can execute faster. The cons are that you lose ownership in the company. You maybe don't have as much say in the way things pan out. Number 2 is that you get, you save up, you get rounds from friends and family, and you go all in. There's a lot of stress involved in that because you've got no money. You have to make it work, otherwise you're going to annoy a lot of people. And then number 3, I think, which is quite prevalent in Australia, is like just a slow and steady mentality.
Yep.
Where, for us, it was always a side project. We still had our day jobs. Like, we both got families, we both got kids. I'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'd work for 2 hours on the train on the way to work. I'd spend my lunch time at work working, and then I'd work for 2 hours on the train on the way home. I'd come home, I'd have dinner, spend time with my wife, and then I'd spend like 3 hours in the evening doing work. So when you're bootstrapping and you've got a business on the side, you're working a lot. You're getting like 6-7 hours sleep, maybe less per night, and the rest of the time is just work.
Yeah.
But once you do get that traction, and we kind of said, I think we hit ourselves like a limit where we said once we hit 20,000 recurring Australian dollar revenue, that would cover our salaries.
Yep.
Because we were both, John was like a high paid Java developer.
Yeah.
And I was a reasonably high paid marketer. It's not like we were like uni students and we could replace our salary quite easily. We both had mortgages, we both had kids. So we had to be a little bit more cautious about the approach. Once we hit that revenue, then we'll go all in.
Yep.
And then, so John actually went all in before I did.
Yeah. And that's around the time I think we met.
Yeah, so around the time we met, I think he had gone full time. I was working at Census at the time.
Yep.
And then once we'd hit, I think 20, just over 20, I went in, and then we scaled it to that. We're now like 20, 30 times higher than that in terms of monthly revenue. So we've got 16 people working for us.
Amazing.
Completely remote team. So a couple based in Melbourne, but most of the people are all around the world.
Yeah.
And we're really embracing that sort of, work-life balance for people where, you can, we don't care when you work, where you work from, just come in, do what you need to do, and, we'll reward you, and hopefully you get rewarded by the flexibility in the work that you're doing.
Yeah, that's a really amazing thing that you can do that now through the power of the internet. There's a few things that I wanted to talk to you about that around that whole culture piece, around remote working and all that side of things. But I'll come back to that. I wanted to talk to you around just the early days. Take me back to the early days, because there's a big movement of indie bootstrappers, especially of SaaS products. Like, that's a big movement now. There's a lot of indie bootstrappers like yourself, and they go full remote. So talk to me around how you got your first customers and the concept of doing things that don't scale. I first learned that concept from you, that you talked about from Paul Graham. I'd love to hear it. I think it's a really important thing to take away for people around how to get your first customer, how to get your first sale.
It's not easy. It's not easy. I've actually had a couple of friends that have spent a year or two building a product, and then they think about marketing or they think about customer development after they've built it.
Yeah.
And they need, to me, after all these years, they kind of need to flip that on their head, and they need to do the customer development first before they start building anything. Some people have said this sort of build it and they will come mentality, and I certainly believe that that's maybe true for a very small percentage of businesses, where they'll build a prototype and maybe it'll go crazy. But I think for the large majority of businesses, that when you build something, you need to do that customer development yourself. And what we did in the early days, so when we first launched, we tried to define what our target market was. And we defined it completely wrong, right? And I'll come back. So we thought our early target market was bloggers. And we were like, right, we're going to go after bloggers. So basically what happened was I would go on Twitter every day. I'd search for the word competition. I'd put in all the URLs of all our competitors, and I'd shortlist campaigns that people were running. And then what I'd do is I'd recreate it in Gleam.
Yep.
The entire campaign. I'd make it look really, really sweet, like nice images. Maybe take me like 20 or 30 minutes per one. And then I would email them back, and I would say, here's how we can make it, hey, how's it going? We've created a new platform. Here's how we can make it better. I think I've got this email script in one of our blog posts.
Yeah.
I'll link it.
Yeah.
And it was a cold email. They weren't on my email list or anything, but I said, here's how we can make your campaign better. And I would show it to them. And I had like an 80-90% response rate on those. And I basically did 10 of those per day, every day for 3 months.
Wow.
Without fail. And that's how we got our first 100 customers. We were in beta for a bit of that time. So initially we got people using us. And very quickly I realized that bloggers weren't our customers at all.
Yeah, they can't afford.
Yeah, well, it's a topic I could talk around for ages, but it's around the idea of creating a product that's freemium. There's a lot of upside, but there's a lot of downside with creating a product that's freemium.
Why? What are the downside?
Well, the barrier to entry is that it's easy to sign up. You might get a lot of people using it. But the downside of creating a freemium product is that you completely diminish the value or the perception of value of the product.
Why?
Because people are like, I can sign up and this is free. Versus if Gleam was not free at all and our first tier was $149 a month, people would view it as a premium product, but it would be exactly the same. So it's all about perception and positioning. If your product's free, if all of a sudden you're trying to sell it at a certain price, people think, well, you've got a free plan, why are you selling this plan here? So the perception of value shifts when you've got a lot of free people using the product. Secondly, it opens you up to fraud, because the barrier to entry to create fake campaigns is very low. Spam, and the volume of support requests you get from free users is quite big. So there is free is a good marketing tool, but there's also a very high maintenance cost to keeping a free plan running. Now in the early days, no, because you've got nobody using the tool.
Yeah.
But we've got close to 2 million registered users now, and we've got a free plan. So the cost of maintaining a free plan increases exponentially as the platform grows. And also things like, if you want to roll out new pricing, you want to roll out new features, you've always got to have this free, you've always got like this free plan kind of in the back of your mind. It's like, we'd love to price based on results or scalability or whatever, but you can't because this free plan exists. How do you go from somebody that's not paying you anything to paying you something? So we always took the approach where we would charge based on features, not necessarily on usage, particularly for competitions.
Yep.
But yeah, the early days it was grind. The advantage with our tool specifically is that, if we get a popular site signing up using it, our branding's in the footer, powered by Gleam.
Viral effect.
Yeah, it's got the viral component where, if we get picked up in a certain industry, all of a sudden all the competitors of that company start using it. So we really got that viral approach happening. And that drove, once we got those first 100 customers, that pretty much drove the rest of the growth. At that point, you then need to think about, all right, what features do I need to build that kind of help accelerate growth in certain areas? So we added Twitch.tv integration at one weekend. It's now one of our most popular integrations.
Yep.
Gaming, that was before gaming was just kind of getting popular, and then gaming exploded. So now we do Twitch, Mixer, Discord, a whole bunch of gaming platforms. The gamers make up a big portion of our usage, but a big focus for us was always e-commerce, people who are trying to build an audience. E-commerce, we've had a good working relationship with Shopify. We've also scaled pretty quickly with integrations, so we integrate with all the major email providers. So one of the things that you can do there is if you have an integration with MailChimp, for example, you would hit them up and say, hey, we've built an integration, let's do a webinar. Can you feature us in your integration catalog, marketplace?
Yep, get those backlinks.
Do you want to do some co-marketing?
Yep.
So all of a sudden you and your integration partner are doing, how can we get more people to you? How can you get more people to us? If you scale that times 50, times all the integrations you have, that's a massive amount of inbound traffic. And then even just being in like the Shopify App Store was big for us. People who are just on there searching for plugins. So many different ways that you can scale. Again, we talked about this earlier. It really boils down to identifying the channels that are working, and because you've only got a limited amount of energy or time as a founder, and depending on how much staff, how many people you got working for you, as to where you can focus your energy. So, for example, Facebook ads have never worked too well for us. Google ads are kind of break even for us. Content marketing is insane for us. Like that's where like 90% of our sales come from. So we focus 90% of our energy on content marketing, pretty much. I think being able to identify those wins and focusing your energy, but at the same time, you can sometimes get too caught in the bubble that you don't experiment maybe as much as you should. You don't think outside the box as much. You just do what you know works. But yeah, so we focus on pretty much like evergreen content, and we just pump it out. A lot of how-to content, how to use the app, how to use Gleam to grow your email list, 25 growth hacks that you can use Gleam for, how to grow your Shopify store. We're trying to target popular search terms, but how to use our product to achieve it.
Yeah, amazing. And talk to me around that recurring revenue piece, because I think there's something very, very special about that, especially when you've got your business as your side hustle, because it just compounds over time. If you've got a good product and you can sell more, then you're losing. And that's something that was same with the magazine. Similar story to you, man. Like I think that's one of the best ways to actually build out your business is do it on the side and just minimize risk, and then just slowly build it up. And if you have that recurring revenue, it's just so extremely powerful. So, when it hits month one, the first day of the month, you don't have to start again from scratch. You've got that recurring coming in.
Yep.
So, how did you guys, if let's say like when people are looking at different business models and different kinds of pricing strategies, What should people think about when it comes to, starting a business on the side versus building a business with recurring revenue versus not having recurring revenue? Are you like always going to do businesses that have recurring? What are your thoughts there?
I think for a SaaS model, recurring revenue makes sense because you want to capture a customer and you want to deliver as much value to them for as long a period as possible, and you want them to pay you for as long as possible that they're getting value from the product, right?
Yep.
It used to be that the model was you would pay for software once, you would download it, you install it on your own machine, and that's kind of it. Whereas a lot of software now is hosted. So when we launched, that's I think when Stripe was first, just launching too. So we jumped on board sort of the Stripe train very early on. They make it really easy to do billing, charge people. So we didn't give it too much thought. Like in the beginning, we only actually had one metric. We didn't care how many people signed up. We didn't care how many people bought from us. All we cared about was the monthly recurring revenue. And that was very, very true even up until we were doing like 7 figures. The only number we cared about was monthly recurring revenue.
Yep.
And the way we kind of thought about that was the monthly recurring revenue is kind of like it's like a projection of everything that's happening in your business. If your sales are working, if your churn is in order, if all your campaigns are running, your monthly recurring revenue should be going up.
Yep.
If everything's not in order, you're losing customers, whatever your monthly recurring revenue is going down. So it was really like a bigger picture number for us to try and achieve. I think it's very easy to get caught in the detail. It's like, how many exact visitors are we getting? What's our exact conversion rate? What's this? So we just took the bigger picture approach, tried to focus on 1 or 2 numbers only, and then, tried to think about how can we impact those numbers on a day-to-day basis. And you might drill down more into the other stats, but it's like, where are the signups coming from? Why are people churning? How can we get people to give us more money? All these payments are declining. Why are they declining? How can we fix that? There's a whole bunch of factors that go into, your revenue continuing to increase. And I think as a software business, I can't think of many software businesses that don't run the SaaS model these days. Listening to a podcast about, I think it was Jason Fried recently, and he was talking about, they were thinking about experimenting with a model where when you had paid Basecamp a particular amount of money, that at some point you would own it.
Wow, why?
And you would become part of like this sort of elite owners group where, you've paid us enough that you own it for life type thing. He was exploring this concept of, SaaS doesn't need to be recurring all forever. At some point you could consider an arbitrary cap that user owns the software because they'd paid you enough. And that's certainly interesting. For us, it doesn't really work because one user could pay us $49 a month, and they might get 1,000 leads. We've had some customers pay us $49 a month and get 10 million leads in a month.
Wow.
And you're like, well, the amount of resources required to service that customer is far smaller than the amount of resources that were required to service this customer.
So talk to me about leads, building your email list. I'm sure that's something that people really want to know because you have access, not necessarily you have access, but you've seen like crazy tactics for list building and growth and generating leads at scale. All sorts of kinds of businesses, all sorts of kinds of campaigns, strategies, tactics. Like, tell me, you said you had one customer's generated like 10 million leads using your platform. Like, tell me about that. Like, what exactly did they do?
Yeah, so I think it boils down to, sometimes it's not necessarily about platform, and it's about the positioning of the offer, the incentive,
Yep.
and the hook that you're giving. So recently, a big campaign that we had was the game Fortnite.
Yep.
They were running they had their own section at E3, which is like a big video game conference.
Yep.
And they had partnered up with like this big streamer called Ninja.
Yep.
You may have heard of him. He's the biggest Fortnite streamer.
Yep.
And they had created all these custom Fortnite gear, so you could get like all these controllers that have been custom painted in Fortnite colors. I think they were giving away like an Xbox, because they were launching an Xbox at the time, a whole bunch of other stuff. And this was all like really unique gear that's like once in a lifetime opportunity that you can get.
Yep.
And some of the most successful campaigns are the ones that have that unique hook.
The rarity.
The scarcity.
Yeah.
We talked about this earlier in like the fifth watches and their use of the scarcity to promote the brand.
Yep.
And that comes down to, again, how many hoops am I willing to jump through to get this? If you're giving away $100 Amazon gift card, yeah, you might jump through a few. Giving away a PS4, yeah, you might jump through a few. Giving away a signed baseball card that's like a 1 in a million. People are going to go to great lengths. Justin Bieber concert tickets. The scale at which it grows is exponential.
Yeah.
Depending on the rarity of, and this just happened to be really popular game at the time. E3, lots of people watching. And like they launched this campaign, and I think US sort of evening time is like Australia daytime.
Yep.
And like our servers just started melting. And we're like, what on earth is going on? Like we had no heads up. We had no ideas. Like we're complete self-service. The guys that run Fortnite, Epic Games, they just signed up. They just created like an account. We had no idea. Like our servers just started melting. And we can handle pretty decent traffic. Like we're doing like 2 billion page impressions a month.
Yeah, wow.
At this point. But sustained, like this was like sustained, you're talking like 300,000 people are just hitting your campaign all at once. And things were fine. Things were like, things were hot. Like, we're looking at like kind of our infrastructure and things were good, but things were still holding up. And then everything just started timing out. Basically, we were hitting like Twitter rate limits on like looking up validation of tweets. And like that just started like cascading errors. So we had to like get a couple of developers on to start caching the response of their tweets, so that we were reading it from the server instead of from Twitter to get things moving again. But that's just like one, there's certain problems that only come out once you're at a certain scale.
Yeah.
But that campaign was crazy. I think it did 10 million actions in the space of 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
But that, again, that's on a bigger scale that maybe not a normal business can replicate.
Yeah.
I've seen much smaller businesses get equally good success.
How?
Generally partnering with like big YouTube channels is a big one. Partner with big Instagram accounts. Where you've got a really good, you may be an unknown business with a really good value proposition, but you just don't have the audience yet.
Yep.
So instead of trying to build the audience yourself, some smart people will piggyback off someone else's audience. So they'll reach out to a bunch of YouTube channels and say, hey, can you review our product? Can you, can we pay you to feature us? We'll send you free sample boxes. In this case, it was fidget spinners. They sent 100 fidget spinners to this YouTube channel. He did a video. Boom, they did like 2 million actions in 24 hours. It's a completely unknown fidget spinner company, no email list, no social presence, no nothing. They had pretty much 250,000 leads sitting in their inbox within 24 hours, just with a partnership with one YouTube channel.
Wow.
So, like you say, like generating leads, there's the things that don't scale, the things that you can do yourself. You can, build your own list. You can drive ad traffic, your traffic, write articles, build your own funnel. But there's this whole other like unseen opportunity that people gloss over, which is, I've got an amazing product. Why can't I leverage somebody else's audience? And that's something I don't see people give enough thought to. it's something that it's a problem that we'd love to solve, but it's more complex than it seems, I think, because there's like a value. You know, some YouTube channels maybe will take your product for free. They'll do the video for free. Some people might have certain rates.
Yeah.
You know, some Instagram channels charge 5-10 grand.
Yeah.
For a post.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a big disparity in what creators expect. You know, I think, and that is a problem I'd love to solve. It's like, I'd love to be able to pay creators on performance. You know, I'd love to be able to say, hey, I'd love to be able to take a brand, let's say like Razer, one of our customers are giving away like a laptop.
Yep.
I'd love to be able to partner them with like 10 technology YouTubers, and for Razer to say, we'll pay you 10 cents per action completed that you drive. And then, you know, if one of them goes and drives like 1 million actions, you know, they could earn, you know, whatever 10% of that in real dollars. You know, actually put like a monetary value on what it's worth to the company. But you know, that's just like dreaming big. You know, I think that's an area that we could really do something massive. You know, we've got the giveaway side of things covered.
Yeah.
You know, we pretty much do everything. We just added Product Hunt recently.
Yep.
Where you can check if somebody's voted for you in Product Hunt or commented. Just added intercom integration. You know, so a lot of the integrations we're adding at the moment are all like supplementary. They're exploratory. It's like, well, what if we did this? What do you know? We've kind of got most of the fundamentals down. But that kind of opens us up. It's like, what's next? Like, you know, what is like the next generation of building leads look like? You know, no longer is it an opt-in form. It's like, all right, how do partners work together to build leads, share leads? But at the same time, you've got like the whole privacy element there, which is like, you want to respect people's privacy. You want to let people choose who they receive marketing information from. The whole consent piece around GDPR and everything's really important too.
Yeah.
Which kind of puts a little bit of a nail in that sharing of leads idea.
Yep.
You know, because you would need to let people choose which brand they share the leads from, all that sort of stuff. So it's not as easy to maybe do that. But yeah, you know, if you're a small company, you've got a solid product, you know, the best advice that I could give is don't go and chuck 10 grand into Facebook ads. Chuck 10 grand into partnerships. You know, if you know your audience and you know the type of audience and what YouTube channels they watch, what Instagram channels or profiles they follow, those are the people you should be talking to. You know, why would you pay 10 grand to get, you know, 100,000 impressions on Facebook ads when you could get, you know, 1 million people watching a YouTube video that actually shows your product in action? And you know, it's a whole different ballgame. You know, the whole influencer thing is, I don't really like the term influencer technically, because anybody can be an influencer, right?
Yeah.
But I do feel there's a number of people that do have, you know, sway in certain industries, and they really, you know, people look up to them and they, you know, they want to know what's next. You know, for me, that person is like a Jason Fried.
Yeah.
You know, he inspires me with what he does and his outlook on remote businesses and running a startup. You know, that's that person for me. But some kid, that person might be Fortnite.
Yeah, Ninja.
You know, yeah, some fashion person, that person might be Greta, and you know what she's doing. You know, the fifth watch is skinning me tea. So, you know, I think you got to realize that certain people have affinity to certain influencers and brands, and you can really leverage that with some smarts.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, one thing that I find from speaking to people around building an email list or generating more leads is it can be kind of an intimidating and daunting experience, and a lot of people are actually also, when they're getting started, don't understand the true power of email marketing, how, you know, powerful it is for generating sales and revenue for your company. Talk to me, like, you know, for anybody that's watching this right now that wants to get perhaps even just their first 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 email subscribers, what would you say you should do? Like, and they've got a great product, they've got a great offer. You know, let's say they have no money, they're a bootstrapper. What would you recommend that they do? Like, is it just a blanket, just go for the giveaway? Use
No,
Gleam,
I
like,
don't think so. I think it's number one, you want to be tracking everything.
Yep.
So you have your analytics in order. You want to see where your traffic's coming from, what people are buying.
Yep.
And you got to think about like the traffic that comes to your site like a funnel, right? So they're coming from Instagram, Google Organic, you know, they're coming down, they're checking out your products, they're coming to the shopping cart,
Yep.
they're buying. You know, at certain parts of that funnel, you may prompt them to join your list, you know, opt-in form pop up. You could do it at point of sale where you're getting them to create an account, getting them to opt into your email list. You know, there's a bunch of places there. And what that does is that allows you to amplify the funnel back. You know, so if you don't do that, you know, as soon as that person hits the bottom and they don't buy, they're gone, right? They're lost. What the building an email list allows you to do is it allows you to almost like create like this supplementary group of people that come in your funnel. They maybe don't buy, but they're not gone forever. They're still here. They're still like on the boil, you know? You're still keeping them heated up, and there's a bunch of stuff you can do with them, like, hey Nathan, you know, you need some new Adidas shoes. You know, you're on the Adidas site, you're browsing, you create an account, you chuck them in your shopping cart, and then, you know, I come in and I'm like, Nathan, you're late for lunch, and you're like, oh, you know, yeah, you close the window, you go away, and you forget the shopping experience. You know, there's a bunch of apps, Shopify, even MailChimp, that sort of thing, where you can do the abandoned shopping cart, right? So it'll shoot you an email like an hour later saying, hey Nathan, you left these items in your cart, do you want to come back and complete? So something like that might increase your sales by 5-10%, right?
Yep.
Small quick win. You know, then you've got all these other people that joined your list but didn't buy, right? So then you can remarket to them with, you're like, all right, well, what did they add? What didn't they buy? You know, try and send them a special offer back. So you're trying to offer more back to them. So I think it's just it's a simple matter of thinking about that funnel, thinking about the leakage, thinking about the people that don't buy, and then giving them the incentive to join your list so that you can continue the conversation with them. And it doesn't necessarily need to be, that funnel doesn't necessarily need to be the sales funnel. It could be content, right? It could be, you know, you've written a great piece on Instagram, that person's reading. You know, one of the things we like to do on our blog is, and you know, with a lot of the opt-in form tools and pop-up tools, people like to just slam the pop-up straight away.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm coming from Google, oh, how to grow on Instagram. Oh, this article looks great. Click on it. It's like, boom, join our email list. It's like, hang on, you know, just whoa, give me a sec. You know, let me read. So one of the things we like to do is we like to use a scroll trigger.
Yep.
Which is once we feel someone's engaged with a certain percentage of the article, then we'll ask them to opt in. And we tend to see better engagement there. Because otherwise you end up getting people bouncing and not even reading the article at all.
Yeah.
You know, so I try to find ways to sort of gently ease people in. One of the things I want to start experimenting with is, I'm not sure if you've seen like the New York Times and some of the newspapers.
They have that thing in the background.
Yeah.
It's like an ad. It's really cool.
They actually obscure part of the article. So they let you read like the first third of it. But then if you're not a member, you have to log in to read the rest.
Yeah.
You know, so I actually saw this the other day. It's like this book that this guy had written on bootstrapping your business. And he gives the first 3 chapters away for free. And then after that, it's all scrambled. Like it's all gobbledygook.
Yeah.
But you can still scroll through the entire book, but the whole book is scrambled. And you can still see each header. So you can scroll through the book and see how long it is. You can see what the content is, but you don't actually get to see the substance. So it's almost like there's like a, you know, you get to see the meat, what you're signing up for, but you don't actually get to read it. I thought that was really, really powerful. So I think there's like a fine balance between giving people useful information, but getting their email address in order for them to read the more advanced version of the article, or more like an advanced content upgrade.
Yeah.
Like I know Google doesn't really like that, but they let newspapers do it, right? So provided you're still providing the value in the first, part of the paragraph, I don't see why you shouldn't be able to do that. That's worked really well for, 90% of our traffic is inbound, either from people seeing the widget to people reading our content. So being able to capture email addresses in content is probably one of the most important things for us. And the things that work the most are the scroll-based trigger, the scroll-based incentive, so packaging a whole bunch of information up into like a guide, or an ebook, and also the embedded post. So, we've got like a call to action to say, get more posts from this author. Has a really high conversion rate from us.
Really?
So if somebody reads a specific post from me or from somebody else in the team and they really like their writing style, we allow them to just get updates from that person. So I think you got to experiment. Don't be afraid to be too brazen. If you want to pop up to everybody, you may annoy people, but unless you look at the stats to see how it's affecting your numbers, you don't know. You might not be annoying people. You might be annoying people to the point where it's actually growing your business, right? We had a chat earlier on. I used to have a client in the Hitwise days, a lingerie company, and they used to send an email every day, and this email was like 30 to 40% of their daily revenue.
Wow.
And someone's like, well, isn't that email going to annoy people every day?
They get used to it.
Well, clearly not if they're making 30, 40% of their revenue every day. So I think some people get like these preconceptions in their mind. It's like, I don't want to send an email every day because I think I'm going to annoy people. But you don't know that until you look at the numbers.
Yeah.
If you send it every day and you see all these people unsubscribe, then you know.
Yeah, I think it's also that expectation that you set as well, that cadence. Like if you say this is a daily email or it's daily deals, you're going to get email every day, right?
Well, yeah. Like catch of the day, I think send 3 or 4 emails every day.
Yeah. So it just really depends on that cadence as well.
Yeah, and I think building the list is one thing, but the value of the list and the value that you provide at the other end
and the relationship.
The value between the relationship is often overlooked.
Yeah.
Because that's how I think I listened to the Kevin Rose podcast, and I think he says that his email list on that podcast is like a 70 to 80% open rate. Yeah. Which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think our list is like 20 to 30% on our blog. And if you think, we've got 100,000 people on our blog lists, so open rate is between 20 to 30,000. So 70,000 people aren't even opening the email. But that's 70,000 people that you've built over this period of time, right? But they're also burning a hole in your pocket because you're using MailChimp or whatever and you're having to pay for that storage. Yeah. So I think management of lists is important. If you're getting people that aren't engaging after a certain amount of emails, you got to cut them loose, put them on a lower priority. Maybe after 4 emails, you send an email saying, do you still want to hear from us? Yeah. I think the whole management piece after the opt-in is equally as important as getting the opt-in in the first place.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's something that's overlooked, and it's easy to look at building your list as just a number when it's actually a person. I think that's something that people often forget. And it's not just about having a big email list or having a crap ton of leads. It's actually that relationship. As if you're you have an online business, it's the relationship you have with that audience and fostering and just providing constant value to that audience and building that trust.
Yeah, it's like a conversation. Yeah. Facebook, Instagram, it's like a one-to-many. You broadcast once, it's consumed by many people. Emails, one-to-one. You can send an email and someone can respond, you can have a conversation. Again, it can be one-to-many in this scenario that you're sending the same email to a whole bunch of people, but they can still reply and you can still have that conversation. But you can still screw it up. You know, if you've got an online store that do men's and women's, and you're sending an email with men's and women's clothes in it, you segment it into male and female, so you're sending the proper stuff to the right person. You know, the email, there's a lot more. It gives you a lot more power and control.
Yeah.
When you have more information about the user. And, you know, people are like, you know, privacy, blah blah blah, but I think targeted advertising is better.
Yeah.
For users. It's a better user experience than just getting blasted with, like, you know, Cheerios ads, you know, when you don't eat cereal or whatever.
Yeah.
But again, it can be complicated, right?
Yeah.
You know, when you're just starting out, you've just got a MailChimp list, you don't know all this stuff. You know, you're just trying to desperately to get those first people, send out those emails, get the response. You know, so I think, you know, going back to that question, you know, it's important just to get started.
Yep.
Try a whole bunch of different tactics, because what works for you might not work for other people, and vice versa.
Yep.
You know, maybe pick on and hone in on the skills and the things that you excel at. And I think different types of businesses will excel at different things. You know, like if you're a business that sells clothes, you might need a more visual approach. You know, so Instagram might work better. You know, Facebook, you know, AdWords ads with like e-commerce. Your emails might be more visual. You know, whereas if you're selling like an ebook or a course, you know, it's going to be more revolving around the copywriting, the testimonials, the success stories that get people over the line.
Yeah.
You know, so I think you need to step back and think about, what does the audience want? What does the audience need in order to buy this product? You know, if you're selling this list building course, you know, they need the social proof that this person knows what they're talking about. They know what, you know what I mean? They know that they can get results. Whereas if you're selling a piece of clothing, it's like, I just need to know that this looks good on me or that person. So I think, you know, just don't take all the tactics as a gospel. Just think about what works well for your unique scenario.
Awesome, man. Well, look, we have to work towards wrapping up. The last question I have for you is, where's the best place people can find out more about yourself and your work? Obviously, we've got the List Building Mastery course. You can go to foundr.com/courses and check that out. But yeah, where's the best place people can find out more about you and your work?
Yes, you can look me up on Twitter. So it's @thejippo. That was a nickname I got after a whole bunch of my friends watched Snatch. And it just kind of stuck with me. We're actually relaunching the Gleam blog this month. We redesigned it, and we're going ham on some new. We're doing this new series called Growth Breakdowns. So building on, remember we did the growth breakdown of your Foundr Instagram account?
Yeah.
We're like taking apart businesses and showing, looking at some of the techniques that they've used to grow.
Yeah, we're doing more of that stuff too. That's awesome.
I really feel like people resonate with businesses they understand and look at the techniques that they're using. So you can, you know, jump on the Gleam site, check out the blog. You know, we write a whole bunch of articles. You know, but I kind of like to lay low. You know, just, you know, running a business is hard work, man. You know, I don't understand all these people that can spend all day on Twitter or LinkedIn and run a business at the same time. So, you know, people can look me up on LinkedIn, you know, message me on Twitter or whatever.
Yep.
You know, happy to help out wherever.
Awesome. And gleam.io.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you so much, Stuart, man. Absolute pleasure,
Thanks,
brother.
Thanks for having me on, man.
You're welcome.
The Foundr mission is to help you create an ass-kicking business and help you learn straight from the mouths of world-class founders. Get your free printed edition of Foundr magazine featuring Sir Richard Branson. Just cover shipping and handling at foundr.com/Branson.